The tale starts with the senpai scolding the boy for not double-checking his work. He apologizes to her and walks away. From his point of view, his senpai can be a bit harsh sometimes, but he knows there is much more to her. Suddenly, someone calls out to him from behind, addressing him as Kamegawa, and asks if he is in the PR department, wondering how he is doing there. The guy tells him that it's pretty good because the senpai in charge of his training doesn't care much, so it's easy for him. He then asks about his experience. Just as he is ready to respond, a woman steps between them and asks them to move aside as they are in her way. Both of them look at her in shock and quickly apologize. Kamegawa watches her leave and remarks to the boy that he thinks she is a bit intense, but not much else. However, the boy doesn't agree with Kamegawa, and they continue talking. Meanwhile, the senpai enters the room and sighs in relief, her eyes sparkling as she thinks about how she finally managed to greet him this time. Kamegawa says hi to her every day, but she hasn't been able to reply to him properly, which has made her feel pretty bad. Now, she laughs with happiness, proud of herself for finally doing it. Though she feels like it wasn't a proper greeting. As she is feeling happy, Kamegawa calls her name, asking to excuse him for a second. Her expression suddenly changes to a stern one as she questions him about the matter. Kamegawa is jolted by her reaction but apologizes, to which she tells him not to. She feels embarrassed, wondering why she always ends up sounding so mean when she should be nicer, but she can't be because of her role as a supervisor. They look at each other, and she thinks about earlier when people outside the room were badmouthing her, calling her rude and scary, and saying they are glad she isn't their supervisor. As she listens to them, she feels sad, and the tablet in her hand falls to the ground. Kamegawa picks it up, asking her if she is okay, and when he looks at the screen, he sees her search engine open, filled with queries about interacting with her kohai. He looks at it in shock, but she snatches it from his hands. He is stunned and apologizes for invading her privacy. She looks at him with her purple, ashamed eyes but quickly regains her composure and asks him the reason for his visit. Kamegawa then tells the boy with him that he is really lucky, explaining that he is just one of those who knows how nice Kenowa-senpai is. He clarifies his earlier words, admitting that she can be hard sometimes, and then bows down, apologizing for being out of line. Just then, she turns away, stating that she is not going to thank him but still says it in a low voice. Despite how she comes off, she is still a nice person. She further asks him if he caught a glimpse of what she was searching for and tells him not to ever do it again, to which he apologizes, promising to be more careful in the future. At the welcome party, Senpai Kanoa says that she doesn't like putting on a show, so if anyone has complaints, they should blame the person who put her in charge of making a speech. She then directly cheers, leaving everyone shocked by her reaction. However, Kamegawa is laughing, thinking that he is the only one who knows how kind she truly is. As he laughs, a guy approaches him, asking if he is a newbie under Kanoa and how things are going, questioning if they have been getting along well. Kamegawa tells him that they are doing well, which shocks the guy. He remarks that all the newbies are terrified of her, but despite that, it's finally her turn to train someone. Kamegawa says that, to be honest, he is really thankful that she is so straightforward about his mistakes and is willing to reprimand him when necessary. The guy slaps his back, praising him for being thoughtful. As they enjoy the party, he asks Kamegawa to drink. He hesitates at first, but then he gets ready to drink. However, Kanoa suddenly snatches the cup from Kamegawa and gulps it down in one go, shocking him. She did it because she knows that he can't handle alcohol, as it was mentioned in his portfolio. Everyone looks at her in shock, asking what she is doing. She shouts at them, stating that she is looking for poison because she is in charge of Kame, and there is no way she can let him drink something without knowing what's in it first. He freaks out, mentioning that it's just vodka and nothing else. Kanoa freaks out and hides in the corner, feeling terrible and embarrassed. Kamegawa calls her from behind, asking if she is okay. She quickly responds, saying that she is all right, but then she wobbles, making an excuse and apologizing, saying she isn't feeling well. Kamegawa agrees with her, stating that he will inform the others. As she is about to leave, she hears others telling Kamegawa that he is the party star and should drink. Just as he is about to drink, she calls out to him, stating that she was just informed about something that happened tomorrow, which stuns Kamegawa. She then asks him what he did so wrong, trying to shake her head and asking him to leave with her. But he doesn't understand and asks if she is referring to that accident. He then tells the others that he has something to do and apologizes for leaving in the middle of the party as they walk in the streets. Kanoa suddenly apologizes, which shocks Kamegawa. She explains that she might have done a little too much, but Kamegawa tells her not to worry, as she didn't do anything wrong, and he really can't handle alcohol. He hesitates for a moment before mentioning that he would love to grab a drink with her sometime. However, feeling the awkwardness, he quickly apologizes, saying that she doesn't need to make time for a kohai like him. To his surprise, she agrees, causing his eyes to pop out. She then further mentions that they should drink together, just the two of them, smiling as she says there is a lot she wants to teach him and a lot he has to teach her. So they should go. He looks at her in shock because she is wobbling and shouts for a taxi. The next day, she tells him that he reeks of alcohol and asks if he didn't even manage to take a bath yesterday. He apologizes because after hailing a taxi to send her home, he missed the train and had to stay over a friend's house, and then he accidentally fell asleep. She is worried and notices a stain and realizes that it's a lipstick stain and wonders what it's doing there. She thinks that he might have gone to her girlfriend's place and must have been lying to her. Suddenly, his senior comes and asks what is up with him, and he has lipstick on his shirt and questions if he is sure that this friend of his is not actually his girlfriend. He tries to explain that it's not like what they think, and he tells that there is no need to hide it, and he finally spills everything, revealing that Kanawa accidentally got her lipstick on his shirt when he was helping her get into the taxi, and she was drunk, and he tried to wash the stain, but it wouldn't come out. She gets embarrassed because she just remembered it and tells him to hurry up and throw the shirt away. In confusion, he replies that he doesn't have spares, and she tells him to go and buy some, and she will pay. She tells him to stop staring because it's sexual harassment, and he tells that he was not looking, and she tells that it's not like she doesn't understand, and her back looks good, and she can understand why he was staring. He is confused, and she tells herself that she cannot say that she doesn't have the courage to show her back at this age, and she wonders if he will look at it, and guesses that he would. He tells Senpai that he wasn't looking at her back, and she tells that there is no need to hide it, because she was also looking, and he reveals that he was just thinking that the ponytail fits her. He realizes that this also counts as sexual harassment, and she blushes, and she didn't have time to do her hair, so she did a simple one, and she thinks of tying it like this sometimes. He tells that it's a rare sight, and she reveals that it is because it turns into a weapon, and she hits him with her hair. She tells him to let her know if he doesn't understand something, and he thanks her and tells that he is fine and he wants to try doing it by himself, and he appreciates her concern. She thinks it's great, and he does his work. After 10 minutes, she is still waiting for him to ask, and even after 30 minutes, she is still waiting. She stares at him and asks if she can help because he cannot understand something. Her face lights up and she asks what part it is, and she explains it to him. Kanawa looks at Kamegawa's noodles and, in a cold tone, asks what they are. He replies that it's his lunch and explains that he's broke at the moment. She continues to stare at his noodles, and he adds that he plans to start saving from next month, but will have to make do with this until payday. Blushing slightly, she tells him that today's lunch is on her. He is confused, and she asks what he will do if his health fails from eating such meals. She insists that he comes with her so they can eat something proper. Kamegawa hesitates, saying it's a bit too much and that he's the one to blame for his situation. Kanawa firmly tells him that if he gets sick and comes late to work, the responsibility will fall on her as his mentor. She asks if he understands, then tells him to shut his mouth and quietly follow her. Kamegawa, realizing she's serious, agrees to eye in a restaurant. While looking at the menu, Kanawa feels a sense of happiness because she finally managed to invite him to lunch. She recalls how, when she was new, her mentor would often invite her out, and she always wanted to do the same for someone once she became a mentor. For someone like her, who didn't understand much back then, her mentor had taught her how to navigate as a newbie. She remembers that even when her mentor invited her to lunch, he would get drinks for both of them. Now, in a way, Kamegawa reminds her of herself from back then, and she feels proud that the day has finally come when she can give back to her kohai as a senpai as they sit. She notices Kamegawa handing her water and napkins, leaving her confused because she thought this was her chance to shine. Flustered, she even starts speaking in a dialect out of nervousness. Kamegawa wonders if he has done something wrong. The waiter arrives and asks if they have decided on their order, and they confirm their choices. Kanawa then notices that Kamegawa ordered a salad and becomes upset. She had told him that the meal was her treat, and she expected him to order something more substantial, like meat. He explains that the other items on the menu were expensive, and she scolds him, asking why he ordered a salad and if he's trying to be a girl. Determined to ensure he eats well, she gives him some of her meat and ends up giving him all her food, ensuring he has a proper meal. She questions wouldn't it lose its flavor if he added sugar, and it's blasphemous. He thinks that it would taste better if he added a bit. She tells that there is no need, and she wonders why she is trying to act cool. When she was a newbie, her senpai always drank black coffee. She tells that coffee is just to keep them awake and takes a sip. He understands and says that he said it because she eats a lot of stuff, so that's why he thought about it. She drinks, and it tastes bitter, and she blushes, and he tells that the coffee is bitter and asks if she would like some sugar or cream in it. She tells him to add a bit of both, and he does. In the office, she tells Kamegawa to not sleep here, and she notices his hands, and they are very big. She can wrap 2 hands around it. She touches his hands and wonders how it can be so different, and she can extend his fingers, and she is having fun, and she notices a callus on his hand, and while blushing she pinches it, and he feels pain. Kamegawa is playing racing games, and she asks what he is doing in the middle of the work, and he explains that this is also proper work, and it's related to the client, and he is not very good, so he thought he would practice a bit. She tells that if it's the case, then she will help him. He asks if she really means it. She is confident in her skills because she plays a lot of games, and she was also a pro in many games. They both start to play, and they both lose, and she becomes annoyed, and she tells that they should play again, and he tells that there is also a beginner level and asks if she wants to practice it together. And she agrees while hiding her face. In the office, Kanawa is confused and asks Kamegawa what he means by a good wedding gift. He reveals that his friend from high school is getting married, and he's wondering what he should get for him. Understanding the task, she explains that no matter the event, it's the duty of a member of society to know what present to give, and she tells him to leave it to her. Though puzzled by what she means, Kamegawa agrees. Despite her confident exterior, Kanawa feels gloomy because she got all fired up and eagerly took on the task after work, but now she has no idea what to get as a wedding gift. She's annoyed. Thinking this is how her communication problems are backfiring on her after all these years. To make matters worse, she doesn't even get invited to weddings. She's never given wedding gifts or anything of the sort before. Kamegawa mentions that the guy is a good friend of his, and it would be nice if he could make him happy. This makes her realize, somewhat sadly, that she doesn't have any friends. But she doesn't want her kohai to feel troubled, so she tries to focus on the task. While they browse for gifts, she notices a cute cat design on a mug and picks it up. Kamegawa also notices it and thinks something like that would make a good gift. Embarrassed, she fumbles, and the mug slips from her hand, shattering on the floor. Both of them are stunned, and Kamegawa apologizes, thinking he startled her by speaking too suddenly. A worker approaches, asking if she's all right. Kanawa replies that she's fine, but internally berates herself, feeling utterly useless. She apologizes profusely and insists on compensating for the broken mug, but the worker reassures her that it's fine and she doesn't have to pay. Kamegawa asks if they have more of those mugs in stock. The worker confirms they do, and Kamegawa tells her it's perfect because he was planning to buy one. The worker says she'll be right back with the mugs. Kanawa, still flustered, tells Kamegawa to stop if he's buying it just to follow her example. He explains that it's not about that. He genuinely liked the cups and wanted to buy one for himself. Annoyed, she insists on paying for it, but he counters that since he's buying it for himself, he should be the one to pay. The next day at work, Kanawa reflects on what happened the previous day. She feels she caused trouble for him and even researched online, finding that a towel set would be an appropriate wedding gift. Yet, she still feels unsure and incompetent, especially since Kamegawa had trusted her with the task, and she couldn't help him. When she arrives at the office, she notices the cat mug and wonders what it's doing there. Kamegawa greets her, and she asks what this is about. He explains that he brought it back because, living alone, one cup is enough for him. More importantly, she had looked really interested in the cup, so he wanted to give it to her as a thank you for inviting him out. He tells her that if it's fine with her, she should feel free to use it. Kanawa, slightly flustered, says she will use it for her toothbrush. Kamegawa is stunned, surprised that she would use it for something like that. Kanawa tells Kamegawa that if it's a new project, it would take time, but she wouldn't mind helping him. He replies that it's all right, leaving her confused because this response is different from what she expected. She asks if he would really be fine without her help, and he assures her that he will manage, so she doesn't press the matter further. She never imagined that she wouldn't be able to help him when she was supposed to. Kanawa recalls that in the past, whenever she offered her help, Kamegawa would be overjoyed and would even seek her advice. She wonders if she did something wrong and becomes gloomy. She glances at him secretly, but he notices, and she quickly looks away. He asks if she needs anything and whether she wasn't heading home. Embarrassed at being caught, she replies that it's nothing and that she just remembered she had some work left. Time passes, and Kanawa eventually tells him that the last train will leave soon, so they should go. He tells her that he isn't done yet and that she should leave first, but she refuses, saying she cannot. He then reveals to her that he has just completed his probation period, and this is his first project as a new recruit. He expresses his desire to see it through to the end with his own efforts, adding that he feels a need to catch up to her as he speaks. Kamegawa notices that Kanawa is looking at him with big, watery eyes, which confuses him. He asks what happened, and she reveals that it's nothing, just that her eyes are a bit dry. She is relieved because she had worried that he hated her or didn't trust her anymore, but she's glad to realize it's nothing like that. Kamegawa hands her some eye drops, and she apologizes, telling him that she understands how he feels. However, she cautions him that if he overdoes it, he might end up creating problems for those around him. He apologizes for that as well. Later, Kanawa returns with drinks and sees that Kamegawa has fallen asleep. She softly tells him that he did well and gently covers him with a blanket. Afterward, They take a taxi home. She tells that who in their right mind will wear a suit in this heat, and he is making her feel hot. He says that he was meeting a client, so he thought he should wear a suit. She tells him that it's fine, and he should take it off for now. He takes it off, and he is feeling hot and wipes his sweat. She sees his coat and thinks about something. He comes back and apologizes for keeping her waiting, and he sees her wearing his coat, and she looks at him in embarrassment. She tells him that he has got some nerve using his phone at work. He apologizes because they were selling his favorite model kits, so he just wanted to take a look. She is confused and looks at his beaming face, and she asks if he isn't too old for all that kid stuff, and this hit him hard, and he tells that if it's like that, then she was also doing that Jiashir pose with his suit, and she was enjoying herself, and it was also pretty kitty. While blushing, she tells him that even she wants to relive her childhood sometimes, and it's nothing more than that. He tells that she has those moments and asks if she also played Tamagotchi, and she replies that she didn't, but she has played Yakuza. She tells him that one of the meeting documents is missing, and he apologizes and tells that he will get them right now, and she tells him to get his act together, and she remembers that she left her phone on her desk, and she doesn't have her act together either. She tells him to wait, and in signs tells him to get her phone because she left it on the desk. He is confused, and the other workers also notice her and wonder what she is doing, and she couldn't take it anymore and tells him that she is asking for her phone and he should get it for her. He is startled and understands and leaves. She is shocked by the fact that he is coming to work just to help with someone else's stuff. He tells that the deadline is real soon, and she tells that there is a typhoon coming, and he should refuse. He tells her that it's a senior from his college, and he found out a lot about the company from them. The guy appears and asks about the work, and he is startled and tells that it's going well, and she stands up and asks if he could push his work on someone else, and he tells that he just asked him if he was free to, and he didn't push it on him or forced him to do it. She tells him that please from a senior means the same as do it. She tells him to do it himself and asks if he thinks she would let her precious subordinate brave the typhoon just to do his work. He thanks her for the help, and she tells him that he should refuse next time, and he replies that he will, and they both smile. She guesses that she can act like a senpai sometimes, and he asks her if she has her umbrella, and she realizes that she doesn't have an umbrella. Kanawa is looking at her phone when Kamegawa asks her what she thinks. She hadn't been listening and asks what he meant. He explains that it's been a while since they had a long vacation, and he's thinking of traveling with his friends, asking for her opinion. She considers it and thinks that traveling is a good option. He agrees, but expresses uncertainty about where they should go because if they travel too far, he'll be exhausted when they return. He then asks her where she went with her friends. Kanawa reflects and realizes that she hasn't gone on vacation with friends, except for school trips. She remembers that she usually stayed indoors and would often clear all the games she wanted to play in one go. Seeing Kamegawa's expectant look, she feels pressured and has no choice but to borrow a friend's story and make it sound like her own. She tells him that it was a long time ago, and that they went to Inashima, but the place was so crowded because everyone was on vacation that they couldn't do much. He realizes that everything will be crowded during the holiday season and agrees, saying that whenever there's a vacation, everyone is traveling. He then decides that he'll just stay home and play video games instead. Kanawa is stunned, and Kamegawa explains that there was a game he loved as a kid, which is getting a remake, and he plans to play it during the break. She immediately guesses that it's the Final Fantasy VII remake and enthusiastically recommends it, adding that maybe kids today aren't as interested in it, but it has tons of new content and DLC. She admits she's jealous of those who have never played it before and can experience it for the first time. Kanawa adds that since she has time, she wants to play the original PlayStation version again. She advises him not to play Crisis Core before finishing the main game, and then she muses that she also wants to watch Star Wars Episodes 4 to 6 but feels like she should watch Episodes 1 to 3 beforehand. As she continues, she realizes she's rambling about Final Fantasy VII and other things. Kamegawa listens to her intently until she suddenly stops and looks at him, blushing. She tries to explain herself, but he sighs, saying he almost got tricked. He reveals that his friend, who had already played Final Fantasy VII, told him to play Crisis Core first, and he almost followed that advice. He observes that she seems to enjoy playing a lot of games and asks if she can recommend any. Relieved that he hasn't lost interest, she asks what genres he plays, feeling happy that their conversation is still on track. Suddenly, the chief appears and asks if he can speak with them. Both Kanawa and Kamegawa turn to look at him, sensing the seriousness of the situation. The chief hesitates, apologizing for bothering them during their vacation, but informs them that he needs the two of them to go on a business trip to Okinawa. Kanawa is left completely stunned by the unexpected request. Kamegawa is feeling extremely nervous as he waits for his interview. His turn is next, and to make matters worse, he is the last candidate for the morning session. He knows that everything he memorized is likely to slip out of his mind the moment he steps into the interview room. He struggles to keep himself composed when a staff member approaches him, noting that he appears sloppy and anxious. She advises him that interviews are an opportunity to observe one's character and that he shouldn't expect much if he only recites memorized lines, realizing the truth in her words. Kamegawa understands that he should focus on conveying his thoughts with his own words. He thanks her, feeling more at ease after her advice. As he looks at her, he notices that she seems nervous as well, and he wonders if she went out of her way to calm his nerves. However, he is mistaken. When his name is called for the interview, he stands up, and the staff member tells him to take a deep breath, assuring him that he will be fine. He smiles and responds that he will do his best. She recalls how she fumbled her greeting during her own interview and reflects on her attempt to encourage him. She wonders if what she did was truly helpful and what might happen if he gets hired and becomes her kohai, with her as his direct superior.